play whatever they want. Yuzora, and yeah, it looks like they are going to go for that one. So throw the cards expand in there as well. Perfection, unfortunately, not going to be able to see Cassidy, and that upsets me a little bit.
Yeah,
but
I wanted to see it. I really wanted to see it. Not going to be happening this time. I wonder if they're going to let Perfections play something of an incredibly carry variety in that top lane. I want to see Riven. I want to see him take Zed into the top lane. I don't care. I just want to see this guy play one of those mechanically heavy top laners. Well, not even necessarily top laners, just someone that can stomp. I just think that he needs to be in a position to carry. Zilean going to be banned on the blue side, which is very interesting.
Yeah, so obviously Sharp just doesn't want to play that champion, and they don't want to play against it. Of course, very, very frustrating to do so. Xerath being taken away from Sharp, that's a consistent ban. So same bans coming through. Perfection has grabbed the Rise, however.
Or Sharp. You don't know. A bit of a flex pick there in that Rise. My dream of having a hyper carry, mega aggressive top laner is still alive. That does give Lucian away to Veritas yet again, though. And that's so frightening here on the side of Avant Garde. Yuzora hovering the Teemo, but I don't think that is necessarily going to come through, and we'll see what he does decide to bring to that jungle. Of course, I think his next option is going to be that Jarvan.
Yeah, Jarvan can come through, Nocturne can come through. There are some answers in the jungle position at the moment. I think Jarvan is actually a very underrated. Elise can come through, Yuzora plays a great Elise.
On that.
Nada, wow, his Janna is so good. Yeah, if they grab this is a very strong lane. Getting those shields on with all of the upfront burst damage that Veritas can throw out on Lucian. Great combo there.
Oh, it really, really is. And we saw last week over at Armageddon in Auckland, Nada playing the best Janna I think I've ever seen in my life. Every Howling Gale, it got to the point where we were sighing when he'd do a Howling Gale that was just perfectly interrupting everything that any team was trying to do to them ever, because it happened all game, and you can't get excited every time, guys, you know?
And actually locking in the Nami here, so looking like Jish does play these disengage supports quite well, but also has the added advantage of having to sustain in this lane. So being able to get through a lane with some sustain might allow Chuffer to have a bit of an extra buffer. Of course, shield supports are fantastic, but you have to play around your windows very well. And we just heard Chuffer in that video speak about how maybe they haven't played together for the longest time, don't have that synergy. So a more forgiving support in Nami and does similar things to what Janna can do.
Yeah, very interesting. Of course, Veritas is hovering this Twisted Fate. Now, Kensty's almost top-played mid lane champion. Of course, played a lot of Twisted Fate and the Zed in the mid lane when we were over in Auckland, and to great effect as well. This guy was massive on that champion, but picking it into a Zed, I don't know whether that's necessarily the best idea.
Yeah, it's not the greatest matchup.
Not going to happen anyway.
I wouldn't be surprised if it did go back. Kensty is a fantastic Twisted Fate. He plays backwards, farms extremely safely, and then tries to influence other lanes, which cannot be spoken highly of. As we see, it will be Yuzora getting that Elise, and probably Porky going back onto that Maokai, saving their mid lane for the last pick, just to see what jungle is going to come out. Because if it is something like a Jarvan, you don't want to pick a Twisted Fate, because he can really start camping your lane.
He certainly can. Of course, Twisted Fate, not with that much mobility, although you do tend to take that Ghost and the Flash in order to give yourself as much mobility, and that the way to just stick to a target as much as possible.
Yeah, Ghost is almost Twisted Fate's aggressive summoner as well, because it means you can get more yellow cards out. As it looks like Chuffer just going back to a comfort pick. Possibly the Tristana has been locked in, and the Nocturne coming through. So once again, an extremely scaling composition coming out of Direwolves. Let's see if they can navigate the early game a little bit better. But definitely, once again, very, very late game focus. If you take a Tristana and a Rise, you are pretty much dooming yourself to at least 30 minutes. And this is a counter pick we have heard about so much. Apparently, Lissandra is the answer to Zed. I am not a believer as of yet, but let's see it come through.
We'll see. It is going to get locked in. So Kensty picking up a very different champion here in this mid lane. And we've seen Lissandra's, of course, Xpeke playing that over at Worlds to great effect. That guy was ridiculous on that champion. She is, of course, still relevant here in competitive play, but I've never seen Kensty play it. We'll see whether he can.
Yeah, it certainly will. And against Sharp, who does play a pretty good Zed, we'll see. So we will be able to see the matchup go head-to-head. As we see Direwolves still having a good time over there.
Yeah. Discussing heads together. But it is going to be Perfections actually on that Rise in the top lane, so he's going to be scaling through on that guy. And I do like the team comp coming out of the Direwolves, but if we hadn't have experienced what we experienced last game, yeah.
Well, the problem is,
story.
on the side of AV is they are so magic damage focused, meaning if they can get this Lucian behind and really start putting some pressure on him, they can pick up double MR items on a lot of their champions and just roll over the MR side of the team.
Yep.
On the other side, on Direwolves, they actually have a very balanced lineup. They've got a lot of magic damage that will be coming through from that Rise, but then they have the Tristana that does so much AD damage, can shred through. Zed, of course, will just go into that split push mode. Probably won't even be with the team. You can just wave goodbye to Sharp at about the 25-minute mark and he'll never be seen again. And yeah, so they do have a more balanced team comp into a very AP-heavy lineup.
Yeah, it's true. And just going back to that, Lissandra, that must be horrible for Sharp to deal with. Of course, that ultimate making you invulnerable works like Azonya's even before you have Azonya. So as soon as they hit that level 6 mark, that death mark going to be very, very difficult to utilize.
But death mark is a very big part of Zed's kit. I'm not going to deny that. However, being stuck in the middle of a team because you cannot move because of your ultimate with Lissandra means if you ever get caught out, you become invulnerable, but then you just die as soon as you're not invulnerable. So
it's sort of a little bit like Zonya's just in general.
Yeah, in general. But the other thing about Lissandra is doesn't have the mobility that some of the other mid laners have, of course. So Gap Closer is relatively slow to come out, and you can guess exactly where it is going. So I just think that it is one of those things. It's a situational matchup. In theory and on paper, it looks fantastic. But if you don't execute it correctly, this could go horribly wrong.
Yeah, we'll see whether Kensti can as we do get onto the Rift. Ladies and gentlemen, here for our second game of PAX Australia between the Direwolves and Avant Garde. The Direwolves now on our blue side. Avant Garde with one win in their back pockets are going to be picking up the red board shorts this time. And Rippy managing to get the first little bit of damage down, I believe. That Dustbringer coming out, securing a bit of that. And I love watching Rippy jungle, of course. You get to see so many different junglers. It's not just 3 now.
Yeah, he definitely does have the widest champion pool in the region when it comes to that jungle area. Looking to see if they can get a bit of a ward down on Shelby's red side of the jungle, looking to be aggressive this time around. I would like to see Direwolves just throw caution to the wind and really try and fight this one out. Of course, having that late game scaling comp will make that harder. Both junglers looking to start on top side of the map, and they will be looking for a lane swap with Perfection possibly throwing him down there with Chuffer.
Seems so. I think that Chuffer is going to be heading to that top lane. I think it's going to be the Rise Nami bottom lane. Of course, an interesting one. I do like Rune Prison into Aqua Prison, though. Mostly because they're both prisons. There's actually a lot of prisons in this game. I think that Lissandra also has a prison as well. So that's actually Glacial Tomb, isn't it?
It is.
Not really quite a prison.
So it looks like there will be a bit of a pause coming through. However, the lane swap has been successfully achieved from what we can see.
Yeah.
So nice first move there. You called it, said that they might be looking for that. Let's see how Perfection performs in that, because it is very difficult to get your head around how exactly these lane swaps work. You have to learn how to play with less advantage on the levels early in the game. You do get denied a lot of farm, and on Rise, that's super important to get to that tier early at least. Yeah. So they need to kind of nurse him through this early game.
Well, I think that's exactly what's going to happen as well. The fact that Nami is going to be in that bottom lane as well. We've been seeing Rise being paired up with supports and leaving the AD carry in the top lane, especially when there is going to be a Tristana up there as well. So that could be a good way just to focus levels into the Tristana. Of course, Tristana being this AD carry that wants levels far more than a lot of others. So that will be really, really good for them as well. And making sure that they get out of this situation where they have to deal with Nada and Veritas straight up will be really, really good.
Yeah, and now it's up to AV to kind of respond to this, because if they do spot it out early enough, they can elect to just hard shove the wave. If you get a Janna Tornado on max charge at rank 1 with a Lucian, you can push extremely quickly. So they can get the swap back if they do so want to. However, I think they'll be content to just farm up and try and get to the first 1 or 2 Dragon team fights and use that part as we are back into the game.
Yeah, we do have Yuzora starting off here at the red buff. He's going to just set himself up a little spider there. Porky going to help him out. So Porky going to be heading to this top lane and going to be up against Chuffer, who has helped Rippy out here at this blue buff at the same time. Umbra Blades, sorry, going to be keeping him a little bit more healthy, as we do have another pause coming through. But we have seen the fact that a couple of buffs have gone down, and that's definitely good. Yeah,
so both junglers starting on the top side of their jungle this time around, so looking to impact the bottom lane. I think great read from Yuzora, understanding that his bottom side will be probably focused a little bit more.
You'd hope so,
This
yeah.
because of how aggressively they played that last matchup. But then Nada on Janna is just going to avoid a lot of that early aggression. Can, of course, set down those nados and is super patient with them.
Queen, of course. Yeah, she's very, very scary. Well, very, very difficult to gank. She's not scary at all, to be honest. She's pretty passive. But
Yeah.
does put a shield on and make everybody else really scary.
And it shows how flexible Nada is as a player. Like going from being able to play an Alistair one game, play in a very aggressive mindset and be the initiator and the person that gets things going for your team, to being able to fall back to a Janna in the next game, being the second into fires, understanding when you have to disengage, how to kite backwards, just means that you show your diversity as a player and how flexible they really are in this bottom lane.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The other thing that we've got to look at as well is the fact that the Direwolves have only recently become a team. They've only recently set themselves up. They know they basically have nothing to lose. I mean, I spoke to them back at EB Expo. They said, oh, we're not really sure whether we're going to be able to take this one. We're just going to try the best we can. We're not too worried about it. You know, we're just going to see how far we can get. So you could imagine that they have an opinion of just feeling like we got nothing to lose. We may as well just go full ham. Whereas Avant Garde have been looking fantastic. I mean, it's an established organization. You could think that they're going to be feeling a bit of the pressure here.
Yeah, they certainly are. Everything is on the line for them. And as you said, not really much to lose.
Oh,
nice double
triple
bounce.
Oh, it feels so good when you ebb and flow all over everyone.
But Perfection is taking so much early game damage already in this lane. Just needs to get him a little bit healthier. Of course, does have some of those potions ticking through, so will be able to sustain his way through the lane, and not really much of a risk of being dove by a Janna early game.
Yeah, it's true. And with that Rune Prison at the same time, Rise just very, very good at locking people up under that turret. They're not going to be wanting to get there. No Relentless Pursuit's going to be used just to smash your face into that turret. But Evan Flow is going to be really, really handy to keep Rise healthy, because we saw him going down really low, but now he's okay.
Yeah, and certainly is. And we'll touch on the jungler, Rippy playing Nocturne this game. It is important that they continue to push in that lane, because that is, if you allow yourself to be pushed in, you open yourself up for Nocturne to be able to gank pre-6.
Yeah.
If lanes are pushed, he can only really gank with that paranoia, because when it comes through that ultimate gap closer, able to get on top of people, whereas at the start of the game, his only tool is his Duskbringer, really. And you need to hit that for it to follow people and for it to do maximum damage. So does have some nice tools in his kit, but just more of a counter jungle, counter gank playstyle once again coming out of Rippy. And he does seem to favor these champions if he can't get his Rammus.
Yeah, it's really, really true. And of course, that Fear Tether not being as great as well is another thing to mention. Is really, really good if you're chasing someone down, you've got a lot of room, but in these lanes when they can just get back under that turret and Argadon just run away from you, it is not quite as useful. Do you think that he's going to be trying to counter jungle and fight the enemy jungler?
It is very hard to fight an Elise, just because if you start losing, she can chase you forever. Moves remarkably quick in that spider form, has all the lockdown from a cocoon, and is able to repel around walls and things. So even if you expend summoner spells to get away, can continue to chase. So it is a very dangerous idea to counter jungle Elise. That being said, Nocturne, if able to land his spell shield, is one of the more potent 1v1 champions at the start of the game, bringing all that attack speed and some CC of his own. Yeah,
not to mention he's going to be avoiding a lot of Elise's damage as well. All of her abilities are going to be doing a lot there. If he avoids the spider form Q, especially, that execute will be very, very important, but probably won't be quite in the mood for counter jungling that aggressively after what they experienced in the game prior. You can imagine just trying to chill out, calm down.
Well, I think a little bit of the opposite. I think that they'll be willing to do anything that it takes, because if you're one down, you're not expected to win a series. You have to do something to surprise the opponent. So look for him to once again get very deep wards, and I just want him to almost follow Yuzora around the map and just look for when he's ganking and try and influence the ganks and turn them into his favor. 2 misplayed ganks in this early game, and this is wide open for the Direwolves.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that Kensty's untested on this Lissandra. You could imagine that getting Sharp ahead on his very comfortable Zed will be really helpful for the Direwolves, really make them feel like they can take this one towards that late game where they are going to be so strong with this Nocturne and Tristana pick. Yeah,
and we haven't really spoken about the relationship from the mid lane and jungle on the side of Direwolves. Of course, best friends, a lot of synergy coming through there with Rippy and Sharp. Actually, Rippy got Sharp into the competitive scene.
Wow.
And was able to influence that way. So they do have fantastic synergy, play together a lot. So you have to think that if there isn't an area of the map that he would like to gank, it would be to get Sharp going, get him into that full split push mode. Because whilst Lissandra, as I said, on paper looks like she has the tools to deal with all of this, if he gets ahead and is able to just 1v1 Lissandra,
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very dangerous on the side of Avant.
Not to mention the fact that Lysandra is quite short-ranged in her abilities as well. So you come in with that Death Mark, she pops her Glacial Tomb, and then you just pop back to your last Shadow, and she can't really do much once she's come out of that one. And if you're fast enough, you can actually dodge all the damage as well, because it actually comes out from around that tomb at the same time.
Yeah, and as I said, on paper, this is a great matchup, but the way you actually play Zed out in the mid-game isn't in team fights.
No.
He goes in split pushes. So, yeah, in lane, very, very good. All the mechanics there to stop the death mark damage coming through. But in an actual split push situation, if she dodges the death mark, after that, he can just still jump on top of her and auto-attack her to death. I don't see how this is a great matchup.
That's true. I think we've definitely confirmed probably not going to be the best. But Lysandra in these team fights towards the late game, you've got the Vengeful Maelstrom down with your Maokai running around being a tree in the middle of these fights, and then you've got, of course, that Glacial Tomb. You can get yourself in there, castle on yourself if you want, do a bit of a fizz play where you sort of just jump around and make yourself invulnerable at awkward times for the opponent. That could definitely work out. And then you've got Veritas just being a monster. There's a lot of lockdown potential that this Lysandra brings, and it's something that we haven't necessarily seen as much in this competitive scene.
Oh, definitely. Lysandra's strength is if she can cast that gap closer from Fog of War, she's on top of your team in turret diving with so much CC. That is what Lysandra excels at. Able to lock one person down and Zhonya's herself is a general build that we see, and then that person just explodes, allowing you to really dictate pace of fights under turrets. So that's why Lysandra is a good pick. Yeah. And that's what I do like about Lysandra's kit. Very, very unique in that sense for mid lane. Kind of how TF at times will destiny behind turrets to get fights going, land one gold card and then just Zhonya's.
Yep.
And really set things up for his team. That's kind of the way I'd be looking for Kenzie to play this Lysandra, not in the answer to the Sharps Zed in the mid lane.
Yeah, so probably not going to be trying to play too aggressively in the early game and actually get the 1v1 kills, just making sure that he gets the farm, maybe a little bit like Sharp would have been trying to play that Orianna in the last game. Maybe not necessarily working out, but I mean, Kenzie didn't get rolling in that last game until the very end, where he only picked up a couple of kills because they had some great team fights.
Yeah, he did farm very well, however.
That's the thing, yeah.
He didn't really have to do much. When your bottom lane is playing to the degree that Veritas and Nada did play, it's almost like you can just continue to farm, go to the lanes they're not in, put map pressure around, and let them win the game. They were the definite keys to victory in the last matchup, so there's no reason for Kenzie to try and do anything more spectacular, because that's where you start losing grips on game if they go wrong. So definitely very well played out by AV, and we complimented them on this when they actually came through. They play games extremely smartly and understand when they're stronger than the opponent.
Yeah, no, they really, really do. There's the fact as well that seems to be the game plan for Avant Garde almost every single time. Because their bottom lane is so damn strong, they tend to be able to just roll over these guys. And the last time that the Direwolves actually faced off against Avant Garde, I think Veritas was playing jungle in their last matchup. So you could imagine that the Direwolves, even though they did actually take down Avant Garde in, I think it was the ACL qualifier, which was a little bit earlier on, they haven't been tested as far as that bottom lane is concerned in the competitive scene.
Yeah, the first time around they played, and actually AV won. Yeah. Veritas went absolutely berserk on Vayne. The first time I'd ever seen him play the champion, and he impressed the heck out of me, to be honest.
He impressed the heck out of me in the jungle, to be honest. I mean, I'm not going to take anything away. His Lee Sin was amazing.
Yeah, and then they did go through. They did have to... Direwolves fought their way back to the final, and it was a rematch, and they did not have Yuzora. So he did play in that jungle role. Played Lee Sin to pretty good effect. Wasn't able to get it over the line. The Rammus came through in the end and kind of rolled over teams. And Magzilla had the tournament of his life going into that. He was huge on Mundo. Of course, not on this team anymore. They do have perfection. So they played a very, very good qualifier with not against a full lineup, however, as you said.
Yeah, that's the thing that's a little bit disappointing. And we do have ourselves back into this rift. Thank goodness. Perfection's now going to be clearing up this bottom lane. Jish now taking so much damage. Sharp offering a little bit of harass to Kenzie, who's falling low on mana. Of course, trying to farm as much as possible. And this mid lane, we'll see how it goes. Not too tested. Following the shadow is Sharp. It's a nice W from Kenzie just to make sure that he can't close that distance too much, and Kensti winning the trade.
Yeah, he is however, and Sharp does have a couple of potions still up his sleeve, so Kensti is now the one that needs to be careful. If Nocturne can get behind him, this could definitely be a gank in the making with how much burst damage Sharp can bring this early in the game.
Yep, it is going to be a 5 CS lead though. Kensti very, very good at farming out as Veritas and Nada go aggressive once more in this bottom lane.
Just actually playing this lane very well, able to harass. Wow, nice double tap there. Great bubble.
Brilliant bubble. That was fantastic. Q coming through from Perfections just to try and get a little bit more out of that trade. But yeah, I think Jish looking far more comfortable on this Nami.
Yeah, looking pretty well early game. Looks like he is just trying to keep Perfection healthy. They are falling behind in CS. You can expect that from a Rise early game, of course. Not going to be able to trade with a caster AD like,
wow.
Oh
my goodness. The flash coming out a little bit late. Nice Rune Prison onto Veritas there as well, and the exhaust was imperative for keeping Jish alive.
Yeah, so heal's still available for Veritas. That's why he's still willing to play aggressive. Of course, has that theoretical health pool from the shield coming through from Janna as well. They're looking to push this lane up, go back and have a nice shot because that was pretty close on both sides.
Oh yeah, he needed just, you know, one more half a longsword and he would have been able to pick up that kill. Porky now does have this wave pushed into his turret, so he's going to be able to get a lot of free CS. Kensti now looking to try and get that Claw of Doom on top of Sharp, hanging off to the side there, but Sharp going to have none of it. He's used all of his potions, though. Only 2 CS down, though, in this mid lane.
I actually think Kensti's nearly in kill range here from Sharp if he does hit the double shuriken, so he needs to be careful. That passive coming through from Zed is so underrated in exchanges, just the amount of damage that comes out of his first auto attack when you are that low. However, starting to regen up health, probably needs to call this Maokai into this Nocturne into mid lane, of course, trying to really gank Porky in the top lane, and you have to say that matchup's going completely fine. Chuffer's dealing with Porky really well, 36 to 27 CS, and this is exactly what you want your Tristana to be doing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And if you compare the AD carries straight up, I mean, in this lane swap situation, Chuffer's doing fantastically. Porky not going to be ganked here by Rippy. There were pings going down all across there. Porky seeming to know what was going on. Chuffer going to pop that rapid fire as well. Jish going very aggressive here in the bottom lane. Veritas does have that pickaxe under his belt, and as Nada was warding, the Direwolves were making up for the fact that they did have a member down.
Yeah, every single time. Wow, as we see some aggression from Chopper.
Oh, that was the flash into the Buster shot as well. Porky immediately flashing out of it. Oh my gosh, that was so close to a solo kill there in the top lane. Fantastic play from Chuffer, but here in the bottom lane, look at that. The double tap can come through. Perfections now in so much trouble. Oh my God! How did that happen? Perfections with the fake out Q into the flash. That was amazing, and turning it around First Blood to the Rise. That's what they needed. Has the tier.
Yuzora is here in the bottom lane looking for a little bit of a gank. Did not want to dive all that CC, and wow, Perfection coming up massive. Rippy now in this bottom lane, as well as Sharp.
4 members of the Direwolves are here. The Aqua Prison just missing here. Yuzora is going to be safe, but this is what the Direwolves have to do, put pressure on early, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, they certainly are, and meanwhile, in the top lane, Tristana just getting all the free farm she could want. Sharp now trading with Kensti.
Yeah, throwing out those shurikens. And going relatively even in this trade. Does have that Bilgewater Cutlass, so wanting to go for as much lifesteal as possible as AV again. 7 minutes seems to be the time that they think that you have to take Dragon, like it's not available at any other point in this game. So they are going to be able to take it.
A little bit safer this time because they do have the teleport advantage in the top lane, as well as recognizing that Perfection had to shop. And of course, Elise just so good at taking
the paranoia coming through into the mid lane though. You do have the death mark. Kensti does pop his own ult, is going to be able to avoid that damage, but as you said, it's not good enough. But every member of Avant Garde, there's a flash into the repel. Sharp is going to flash in response. Both members just get the heck out of there on different ways. But is Sharp going to be okay? Because I think he got the wrong memo. This isn't last game.
No, they're definitely just going to try and push the mid lane in response. They're looking to pick up an objective. Fantastic response coming out of Avant, recognizing the kill is nice, but a mid lane turret is definitely better.
Yep, and picking up that dragon as well. So Avant Garde coming out ahead. Only a few hundred gold though, and it's nothing to write home about, as we do have 2 kills now on some pretty pivotal members of the Direwolves in Perfections and Sharp.
Yeah, it certainly is. And mid lane matchup playing out in the way that, unfortunately, Kenzie just getting caught in his ultimate.
I thought you were going to say playing out in the way that I just described, everyone.
No, that would not be very nice. But it's one of those things, he's definitely winning the matchup. So he's got the 20 CS advantage nearly.
Yep.
He was able to push into the turret early. Maybe Rippy could have influenced that lane a little bit more than what he has. But now that ultimate is up, look for him to just continually to repeat gank Kenzie and try and make his life pretty horrible.
Yep, that seems to be his plan. Direwolves now with a little bit of late vision onto this dragon. And Porky and Chuffer going at it once more. 75 CS to 56, theoretically, but this Tristana being able to farm out so much more effectively this game. And we've seen time and time again, Chuffer, if he does get to the point when Tristana's super relevant in this late game, things just go ridiculously badly for whoever they're against.
Yeah, it certainly does. And wow, he's just dominating that lane up there, and it has allowed him to pick up a full BF sword as well. Normally we see pickaxe into Zeal coming out of Tristana for a little bit of a smoother power curve. And wow, once again, this fight in the mid lane.
Hitting the Shuriken as well, but it's not going to be having enough damage with that death mark. Kenzie going down so low now though, and Sharp has the dominance asserted. Perfection's only taking a few shots of that culling. And now that he has that catalyst and the tier as well, this is the Rise in that comfortable position. Only 10 minutes in, he's on his way towards that Rod of Ages quite nicely.
And Sharp now starting to get a little bit of pressure back in this lane. Still farming very well as Kenzie. However, if Sharp gets into that split push mode as Rippy, wow, picking up double buffs for himself, not giving the blue over to Sharp there, does very much help Azed with that energy regeneration. Allows him to trade for a very long time. Of course, is energy gated, unlike a lot of other champions.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, isn't it, having a champion where you've got energy, but you still have to make sure that you're very well aware of it in every engage that you do.
And great push coming through from here, Chelby. Yuzora is going to try and push them away. Porky also rotating down, but this is going to mean some damage on the top turret as that poor creep just gets cocooned up and wiped off the face of the map.
He was pretty mad about it too. I mean, he'd done nothing to Yuzora. Very, very unfair, but it was nice movements here by Jesh to make sure that he positioned himself with that creep in the way.
And now rotating into this top lane for Chuffer. Ping's coming out from his team, so a much better control of the map this game has led to Direwolves actually having an early game advantage, but the dive might be coming through.
Yeah, we do have that Glacial Tomb available. Kenzie is unseen. Chuffer wants to get the ward over the wall here. And if
they
he
know
does,
exactly where he is.
He's probably going to come in.
Counter game coming through.
Oh my god, nice buster shot to stop this one coming through. Chuffer actually going to flash over that one. Look at Yuzora, he's so low, but Porky does pick up the kill. He's going to die in response. 1 for 1 here. Kenzie wants to make it a 1 for 2. There it is. The Q lands. They are going to sacrifice the turret, but I think that this top lane's going to fall down as well. Avant Garde coming out ahead, but it may have been a little bit overly aggressive.
Yeah, very aggressive, having to expend so many summoner spells to get that one through, but in the end, getting a kill onto Kenzie is going to be so important, but in the mid lane, Sharp isn't done. He's looking to grab a tier 2 for his troubles. If he can tear through this turret and get a reasonable amount of damage on, I don't think Direwolves will be too upset with that trade.
Yeah, not bad at all, of course, killing a lot of these creeps on the turret as he has closed this CS gap to about 6 now as well. Nada going down so low in his bottom lane. Perfections with so much damage. Nice relentless pursuit. He's going to get Veritas out of trouble, but look at this, the flash, the Rune Prison, Veritas with a... Oh my god, Nada is incredible. That shield was out of control.
And Porky now looking to cut Jish off. Jish needs to get back to his side of the map, although, wow, you're in a little bit of trouble, Veritas.
Yeah, Jish actually picks up the kill, though. Getting rid of the ability for Zed to snowball more off that was really, really intelligent, even though he did get the experience here, so not entirely bad. Nice Shroud of Darkness in order to stop that one from coming through.
Spell shield.
Yeah, spell shield. Probably should have said spell shield, shouldn't I?
Yeah, as we see more push coming into this middle lane, Rippy will be the happiest jungler in the world to clean that. No! Wow, Rippy, the tax.
Oh, obviously isn't carbon.
As we see Perfection cleaning up a lot of that CS. Rippy actually 73 CS. That guy puts the jungle on farm so well.
Oh, yeah.
Just powers through it on a lot of champions. Once again, above And they've sent Chuffer back into the top lane. This is a risky play just because of how long that lane is for Tristana now.
Dragon in 10 seconds too.
Great ward down there. So, yeah, maybe even forfeiting another dragon. They're still in the gold lead. They're about 200 gold up, which isn't much, but they do scale very well into the late game. So maybe just happy to seed these objectives and try and get themselves to roughly the 28, 32 minute mark where they will be very strong and hard to deal with.
And you can imagine, oh, as we do have the ultimate coming through, Kensty's coming down. Jish, you're in so much trouble, buddy. And that is going to be the culling going to finish that one off. Veritas making sure that he's always able to get that damage down. Glacial Shroud being finished early on. Kensty copping a lot of damage here as well. Perfections needs to be given the respect he deserves here in this bottom lane, as Izora gets caught by Dustbringer, being leveled first by Rippy.
Yeah, and the teleport is available for Porky, so they need to be careful in this bottom lane. This could easily turn into a 5v2, and that is exactly what is happening.
Yeah, both teleports being used. Of course, Perfection's coming straight back and getting all of his health. But that's going to be teleport on cooldown as well, as Direwolves just try as hard as they can.
But they have so much wave clear down here. This might actually lead to Chuffer getting the top lane turret as well. Sharp just chunking Veritas out.
And the ultimate being popped here by Perfection as well, just making sure that he can clear out those creeps and get a little bit of extra damage on top of AV. This is a very different game to what we experienced last time. 4-4 in kills, 1-2 in turrets. Very, very close in this gold, and Chopper's going to be able to get the top lane unanswered here.
Yeah, he's potentially going to stick around and clean this one up. Does need a run after that probably, because he does take nearly half his health in turret shot. But wow, he's going to have his static shiv finished in a couple of minutes, and level 11 Tristana, highest level in the game. This is exactly...
Izora's in a lot of trouble. The cocoon does land, but is it going to be enough? Sharp will have that shadow back relatively soon, but not wanting to dive too far. That is very, very important because, of course, that death mark can potentially be dodged with a very, very swift repel. You can't dodge it by going up while it's on you, but you can cancel it at the very beginning of its cast. So, difficult one. Oh my gosh, Veritas going down so low yet again, but Nada with a fantastic shield. Does get caught by the Aqua Prison, but as we've said, and as he is proving, Nada's Janna is so good.
Yeah, and Perfection's Rise is pretty amazing as well. Now caught up in CS against Veritas, who we've talked up a lot, and is playing this 2v2 matchup on a top lane champion. We questioned whether he had the experience to do it, and this guy's playing pretty phenomenally.
Yeah, it's like he's got his jungler in his lane the whole time, you know? It's pretty cool. He's probably thinking that it's awesome.
Yeah,
he's like, oh, there's so much support, man. This is so cool.
And of course, with the build he's gone, picking up that Catalyst and having some more armor just means that there is a lot of forgiveness in this lane. As we see Sharp maybe getting a little bit ganked up. Shelby Yuzora just gonna drive by, pick up some creeps for himself maybe.
Yep, scuttling through on this Elise. Veritas clearing this one out. Of course, no outer turret, in this mid lane, as Chuffer has rotated round as well. He feels like he's taken down the outer turret in the top lane. I think he's probably wanting to get to this bottom lane, clear out the last remaining outer turret, as Kensty's doing exactly the same thing. Perfection's now going to be walking out of this one. We do have the claw coming through. Kensty going to follow it. Jish gets immediately destroyed. The Ignite ticking down. Oh, nice dodge, but it is going to be the last tick of that Ignite. Going to clear that one out. Almost a 2v1, but Sharp immediately evaporates him. Veritas now is going to cop the double kill here from Sharp. Another flash. Chuffer celebrating by smacking his head into the trees. And that went fantastically for the Direwolves.
Yeah, 2-for-1 turnaround, and you can just see the catch potential that comes out of this team. Great 3-0-0 now on Sharp. This guy can be an absolute monster in the split push, and I don't know if they have anyone that can really answer that on the lineup of Avant Garde. And now Chuffer, 161 CS, level 12, has that static shiv, will be grabbing an Infinity Edge within the next couple of minutes. Tristana is really starting to get going.
Yeah, this is what's incredibly scary. 65 CS in the lead for Chuffer on this Tristana. Not to mention the fact that instead of a 4-0-0 Veritas, we've got a 2-3-0 Veritas. And this is going to change the game completely. And I think it's on Perfections for being able to keep down this bottom lane so effectively on a rise.
Yeah, he traded so well. He's
played
ahead
that
early
game
game
against both theoretical, only one of his theoretical lane opponents, but doing really, really well on this guy.
Yeah, and as you can see, they're back ahead in gold. So whilst they have been out-rotated around the map a little bit, lost all their outer turrets, and 2 dragons going in favor of Avant. Still able to keep the gold exactly equal.
I don't know where they're making their money from, to be honest.
Their jungle has got 30 more CS.
Oh, yeah, that's probably it. Not to mention the 60 more CS on their 80 carry. So yeah, I think I probably could work it out, given a little bit of time. But it doesn't make quite that much sense if you have a look at the scoreboard, if you have a look at the dragons that have been going down. I think that AV may still be fairly confident that they're ahead in this matchup.
Yeah, it certainly does look that way when you count all the objectives coming through. Sharp, once again, fanning his chances against Kensti. Just still chasing that one. He's a pretty quick fish.
Yeah, sort of semi-fish. I'm not entirely sure what a Lysandra is. But doing a lot of work here, of course. That claw able to let you split push effectively around this map. Does have that Zhonya's completed as well, so multiple ways to go invulnerable, lock people down, go invulnerable yourself, do crazy stuff around this map. But the Direwolves now scaling really, really nicely into this late game, and you could imagine that they're feeling very happy with how this one's going. And we've seen Zed Ryze combos just work so well. Ryze with all of this AoE, his tankiness is fantastic. Zed just destroying people because champion just does a lot of damage, which is cool.
And Rippy picking up some cooldown reduction in this build is so key. Of course, Nocturne is most useful when he has his ultimate available, so being able to pick up that build, still have a nice early game, 1 and 2. He's definitely doing better than he was last game. Just means that he is in a better spot, and wow, can they actually fight this dragon for the first time today? Porky's teleport is up.
Paranoia is available. He can come in, but he's not going to be able to. They are just going to start the fight here. Kensti going down so low, but a nice ultimate is going to mean that he can get out of that one. Jish now in trouble. Chuffer gets caught up, but Porky in this backline. Perfections is already dead, even though he got a bit of damage down. And look at Porky zoning so many members of the Direwolves, sorry, and that's going to be Jish falling down. Rippy now getting destroyed. Does have that spell shield in order to keep himself alive after that Ardent Blaze, but this is not going well for the Direwolves. The Relentless Pursuit going to come through. Chopper, meanwhile, is going to be able to kill Kensti. Does have access to a few of these resets. We'll see whether he can make the work happen. Sharp's got a lot of damage as well. Chopper being able to free auto attack from the backside. He's just going to rocket jump himself away, and Sharp is going to escape out of that one as well. So not necessarily going as badly as it otherwise could have. I think that was a 3-for-1 in the end.
And
Avant Garde got the dragon, and Direwolves just unable to team fight quite as well as this Avant Garde team.
Yeah, Chuffer went a little bit too deep instead of turning around and just smacking Porky in the head a couple of times. They did actually dive the back line instead of trying to deal with the front line after they chunked Kensti so effectively. Maybe could have turned that fight around, but nicely fought from Avant. Definitely showing that Lysandra in her team fight prowess is a great pickup. I like Chuffer's end game, end part of that fight where he turned around and started hitting people. That saved Sharp's life.
It did.
Otherwise, they would have just kept chasing Sharp, would have got him. So able to get his mid laner out of there. Still 3-0-1. That shutdown gold would have been very nice. But Kensti, 165 CS, making this Lysandra work.
He really, really is. Now 3-0-1 on Sharp, so of course didn't die. So still looking pretty good on that scoreboard. And 202 CS for Chuffer. You have to realize as well, that's a fresh Rod of Ages. So the Ryze not necessarily scaling nearly to the point where he wants to be yet. So the Direwolves still are behind theoretically just based on their champions. So you can imagine that Avant Garde still with a little bit of an advantage here based on their team comp, and that's why they're able to take these dragons. Kensti coming through. There's the tomb coming down on Perfections. He seems to be definitely the focus, flashing out. The Ignite's there as well. Does have a potion ticking. Yuzora going so low. That's a brilliant use of Repel, but he's going to fall as soon as he comes out. Sharp. Yep, sorry, Kensti. That's not going to be enough. You're going to get cut down as well. Direwolves turning around that dive so beautifully, although still 3-for-2. At this stage, Porky is going to finish Perfections out to the side, and look at this tree, really starting to get huge.
Yeah, and the kills are just going in the perfect area for Direwolves. Sharp 5-0-2. They don't have an answer in a split push situation. This guy is an absolute monster at this point of the game. Finished his Blade of the Ruined King. Now we'll be transitioning into what would possibly be a Youmuu's Ghost Blade as well. Yep. He's going to rip through structures, and Chuffer, 212 CS. Level 14.
He's almost out-farming the clock as well on this Tristana that's been in a weird position throughout this game. And we saw him. You could imagine that the Direwolves will be feeling like their morale is so low, but they're not playing like it.
Oh,
what
definitely
was
not.
the last game? They've forgotten about it.
And at this point in the game, if AV don't get a move on, this Tristana is going to be worth so much more than Veritas's Lucian.
Not to mention the fact that the Infinity Edge was just completed alongside the Berserker's Greaves. That's the 2-item spike
and Shell
that Tristana
Yuzora
really
has been caught out in the bottom side of the jungle, not being able to be locked down at this point.
Oh, Perfections actually pops the ultimate there. Nice amount of movement speed coming through from that guy so that he didn't get locked down by another one of Kensty's ultimates. Kensty seems to be the one really engaging these fights on this Lissandra, so making sure that you get out of the way of that is really pretty important just because there is so much potential burst. That Morello Nomicon and the Zhonya's Hourglass as well.
And Sharp recognizing the fact that they are willing to dive. They go
the
in.
Paranoia coming through as well. Rippy immediately gets locked down. Jish now is going to be the focus. Sharp very deep in the backside. Nice exhaust onto him. Look at the damage on both sides though. Chopper now. Look at him getting the resets in this fight. Turn around, just one auto attack. Pops him as well. That's going to be Veritas now in a lot of trouble. He knows he's dead. He's going to stop. Triple kill for Chopper.
And this could be the Baron. Rippy is going back, but they can definitely do it. Perfection has enough armor at this point in the game. If they can get Rippy back there quick enough, they're going to tear through this. And what a team fight.
What a turnaround from the Direwolves after such a dismal team fight earlier on. Now just, they've got their Tristana to that point where she's so strong and they get the fight that they needed at exactly the right time. Now Direwolves with this Baron down incredibly low. Of course, every member down incredibly low as well. Sharp is going to be able to secure that one as well. No smite needed. And every member of AV has just respawned. So nice turnaround, a decisive Baron from the Direwolves.
And a 2,000 gold lead at 25 minutes in a team that is stronger at nearly every single position as we jump into a replay. Rippy just gets this one started so early with his Paranoia. They brought Sharp over, and I think Avant were actually expecting him to still be split pushing. He gets so much used on him and then just gets out of there. And from here, Chuffer takes over the fight with Perfection. Rippy gets out of there. Chuffer gets enough gap, recognizes that he needs to turn around for the reset, and then Veritas just gives up.
But you see Nada off to the side, still with an incredible Howling Gale to knock up both of them to give Veritas as much hope as he possibly could get. Kensty now finds himself in a little bit of an interesting position, just going to Chlora Doom over to the side.
And now, Chuffer has picked up a QSS as well, meaning that if he does get caught out, that is just so much more forgiving. Mikhail's also nearly finished up for Jish. So they're in a position with this Tristana, who's been accelerated, level 15, has the range needed to be able to take out these turrets, and is starting to really get some nice items behind her.
40 CS above everybody else on the map. The highest other members on this map as well is Chuffer. This whole game is on his back at this stage, and his team is allowing him to do it. 5-0 and 6 now on Sharp. You have to talk about that, and Direwolves know that they're stronger. They're going to be able to take this Dragon. They're first for the game, but of course it is going to be the fourth to fall. And just securing more leads and more control around this map, I think we might be going to a game 3.
Yeah, it certainly looks like they have the pieces in place to be able to do that. They do need to go deal with this bottom lane turret. Although, wow, Sharp looks like he's looking for Kensty once again. Popping that shadow over the wall. He has gone in.
Yeah, has discovered Kensty. He does have that Zhonya's, but there's the Paranoia coming through. Oh my gosh! Deathmark just evaporates him. I believe he had his Zhonya's ready.
And his ultimate.
Yeah, both of them. But just the claw landing him just after, I think.
And Porky also getting chunked. This will definitely be a turret at least, forcing their way through. This is still a 4v5. They're all grouped up. Porky's reasonably low. I don't think they can defend this turret.
They can't. Frozen Heart has come through from Perfectionist as well. He's happy to tank this one as much as possible. You can see Avant Garde need Kensty to start these fights. And as long as they can farm out these waves, clear out the creeps, you can imagine that things are going to be okay. But you can see this is the chink in their armor at this stage is the fact that Kensty's so important to Avant Garde. And if he gets picked off, they tend to fall apart.
Yeah, and it looks like they're sending Chuffer down the bottom to grab even more farm for himself. Picks up a red buff for his trouble on the way as well. And 4,000 gold now. Direwolves looking pretty decent.
I don't even know what last game was. What was the last game? This is the first game, right? Nada still 007 though, so James Bond is on the case in this game. Does have that Magi's Soul Stealer as well. Very confident that he is Janna. Never die, always get assists. No worries at all. So you could imagine that, I mean, we're talking up the Direwolves here, but we saw Avant Garde in their last performance. They are fantastic. If they still manage to get the type of team fights that we know that they're capable of, then this game can still go either way. But the Direwolves looking fantastic. I want to go back to that the last team fight that we saw just for 1 second, because Rippy spell shielded that Glacial Tomb.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. Absolutely incredible.
We can see that they're actually looking to focus towards the bottom lane with perfection. His teleport is up, so not a bad move there. There's a lot of free gold around this map that they can just build on. They're a very good scaling composition, so why not pick up the outer turrets before rotating into this mid lane? Put as much pressure around the map as possible. There's not really a extremely long engage unless you count Kensti, who you can definitely see coming. And Perfection will be able to grab this one for free. And he's teleporting in behind. This will be a fight.
They are starting this one off. Paranoia coming through. Veritas actually going to get feared as well. The whole team is being locked down. Rippy gets caught up, but he's taking no damage. Veritas, he's going to fall. Chopper picks up that kill. Kensti immediately afterwards. The Direwolves are ripping through Avant Garde. Porky, the tanky tree, not tanky enough. The double kill, and the Direwolves transition immediately into this inhibitor.
707 on Sharp, absolutely went massive in that fight. As Yuzora picks up Rippy on the way out, still going to grab the inhibitor. I don't think they'll mind too much, although maybe a red face or two over on Direwolves' side.
Yeah, a little bit. It's his name though, you know, Rippy, it sort of makes sense. Tries to get the Triss sack, but Chuffer not able to do so. Yuzora is going to be fine, but the inhibitor does fall. That's the main thing. Not sure whether it was worth a flash just for no reason by Choffer though, but it looked fancy. I liked it.
And only 2 minutes up on this Baron now, so look for them to shop, be so strong coming into this. I think that will be the last Whisper finish for Choffer as well, so he's going to be doing even more damage in these fights.
Oh yeah.
Sharp's got his already, as well as that Youmuu's Ghostblade, so he's an absolute beast. No one will live if he gets onto their back line. And Perfection, meanwhile, scaling up so nicely on this rise.
I think he might, no, he's not. He's going to go for that Spectre's Cowl under the Banshee's Veil, and he's going to finish off his Seraph's Embrace. I thought it could have been the Abyssal Scepter Rise. That is a personal favorite of mine, I'm not going to lie to you.
If you are the only AP person on your team, do not build Abyssal Scepter.
Okay,
and we'll leave that there.
It's just fun. It's not about that. It's still a game, remember?
As we see Chuffer in the top lane, picking up even more farm for himself. He's 280 CS nearly at this point, as well. Just might have been caught out, but Sharp there, he's got his supports back.
Yep.
And Perfection now getting it started again.
Oh, pops his ultimate. Kensti's taking so much damage. The Tomb didn't want to be used on this guy because he's so tanky. Paranoia coming through as well. There's going to be a nice Sonya's going to keep Kensti alive, but look at the Aqua Prison. Chuffer now, so much damage. It doesn't matter how tanky you are. He'll destroy you. Yuzora is going to be the next to fall. Chuffer, there is so much consistent damage on this team. Direwolves just putting on such a show.
And Rippy cannot be understated in this game. 4-4-13, 17 of 22 kill participations, and building that tanky initiator this time around. Able to get on the back line. That'll be the game, and wow, Direwolves really turning it on when it counts.
Yeah, Direwolves just able to execute their team comp to utter perfection, no pun intended. And that is going to be the Nexus falling down. Our 3-game series for our first one at PAX Australia. We could not have asked for more, and what a fantastic game coming out of the Direwolves.
And we said it at the start, Direwolves win games they have absolutely no right to win.
Yeah.
Taking out Immunity, now stealing a game off Avant. What a series.
And they have so much momentum going into the last game of this series as well. I cannot wait to see what they bring out, because you can imagine they still need to give respect to the bottom lane here of Avant Garde, but if they manage to play it and execute it so perfectly like they just did, things could really look fantastic for this last match.
Yeah, and now all the pressure, as you said, is on AV. They have to step up here and show that they are the veterans and that they can come through. Look to get maybe standard lanes back, because that seemed to work out well.
Yeah,
Perfection going head-to-head with Veritas was so fun to watch, but just impressive from a guy that is one of the best mechanical players in the scene.
Yeah, and he hasn't played on these competitive teams all that much. He's been a sub so often. I mean, I, of course, watched him play on a team called the Wobbly Bears. I think it was 2 years ago, and he was so good. Played the best mid-lane AP Malphite I've ever seen. And it wasn't part of the meta then. That's not some ridiculous 2 years ago thing. That was still weird, but it was so impressive to watch. This guy pulls out strange picks. You can imagine that our next game, he could be on anything. But if he can get his rise back, I want to see him on that.
Yeah, definitely. And now it's up to AV. Do they change their bans? Do they maybe let him have Kassadin and see if they can deal with it? That rise didn't seem like it was going to go through, and he came up huge on it. And we do have an actual replay to jump into, guys, during this map. And this is, I think, to do with Sharp going absolutely huge. So Jish does get caught out perfection, able to turn around a lot of the damage. And Jish keeps himself alive long enough to keep Kenzie interested. And then, wow, Sharp just gets so much work done, takes out Veritas, takes out Kenzie. This is where Chuffer jumps into a tree just for a bit of fun.
I love that.
But that Tristana getting solo lane experience, so important. And then Sharp, he had the game of his life.
He did, and we were talking about Tristana all the time. Talking about Tristana, like, oh, it's so good. But meanwhile, Sharp is just ripping people to shreds, going, nah, notice me, guys. I'm like carrying this game. Jesus.
And Veritas would not have had fun whatsoever. There is nothing worse than being repetitively dove on by a really strong Zed.
Yeah.
Especially when you're playing a short-range AD like Lucian.
And especially around this mid-game as well, when you can't justify building that QSS at that point. Of course, Zed gets a little bit less relevant when all of these items that can get rid of his death mark start coming into play. But he peaked at exactly the right time to be relevant and always managed to be where he needed to in these team fights. The Direwolves really turning this one around fantastically. I know that I cannot wait for Game 3, so we are going to go to a short break, but guys, don't go anywhere. This series is out of control.